So we're recording this now. The image is quite a nice one, nice little car. But the idea being that when we talk about objects, I don't know how much you guys know about objects or done with objects, maybe in Java or in some other, even in Python. Some are shaking their heads no. But with an object, you define an object, and then that object has properties. But you can also have methods that work with the object. And so you can think of objects and methods and properties as it is with this nice little car. So properties of that car, it has a color, which is white, it has a weight, which you can measure in kilograms. It has a model, which is the Fiat 500, the 500. It has a name, which is Fiat. And then there's some methods. These, you can think of methods as things that the little car can do or the little object can do, right? So our properties, they actually described the object. You can see that the properties are things that we can use that are helping us to describe or understand the object. Our methods are things that the object can do or things that are done on the object. So for example, the object, the car can stop, it can brake, it can drive, it can start, etc. And so we've already used some of these methods and properties already. No, sorry about this. It's getting my finger to work on this. It goes quite fast, doesn't it? I think that's number 2 slide. Number 3, it says. So that's 2, 3. That's the right one. So here's the topics that we're going to discuss today. Some of these things you're already familiar with. JavaScript is an object, a container, several properties and methods. So we're using the DOM to actually identify different parts of the HTML, and using that, we can set an object for that and then work with it. Methods and properties can be used with the dot operator. And so we've done that with the document, where we've done a method called getElementById. So we've already seen that. And so we're going to go forward with that, but we're going to add to that some other things that we've worked with. There's some properties that we've seen that go with the document objects that we create and use. Inner HTML, I hope you remember that. Style, ID, etc. So some of the objects and what we're going to discuss today. Only got a few things to discuss, because basically we're going to talk about a little bit of math, random numbers, and we're going to talk about a little bit of time. So we've got this thing called math random, and what the random method will do with math is that will produce a random number. And so we can produce a random number, but the random number that will be produced will be a number which is a float between 0 and 1. So we're a little bit limited with it. It's not sort of just perfect producing for us all the random numbers that we want. We have to tweak it a bit to get it to sort of produce random numbers that we'd use for guessing a number between 1 and 10 or something like that. What it's going to do is it's going to give us a number between the range of 0 and 1, so a float number. So what we have to do is we have to use some other little methods to sort of work with it. So we've got a method called floor, and we've got a method called seal. Seal being ceiling, floor being floor. Underneath, or the lower limit, the floor is your lower limit, right? And ceiling is your upper limit. And so what we can do is, so for example, if you've got a number like this, a float number 3.6, the floor of that would be the number 3. That makes sense, right? So the number, the highest integer number below this number, that would be our floor. Whereas our ceiling would be the lowest integer number above this number. And so our ceiling would also be 4 here. So the highest, above this number. So that's the number above this. So we've got our floor and our ceiling that we can work with, and that allows us to take these float numbers and do something with them that will give us a value which will be an integer if we're going to work with the random function. sorry. Okay, so that's 4, 5. There we go. So what we can do is we can multiply it by some number. Here we're multiplying it by 10. We're taking a random function and multiplying it by 10. That would give us 10 evenly spaced numbers, right? Multiplying it by 10 will give us the numbers between 0 and 10, but not including 10. Right. So if we use the floor of that, that'll give us the lower number of those. Returns a random integer between. It's going to include 0. If you don't want to include 0, you can add a number to it. So you could add. You can set your range of random numbers to what range you like, and we're going to see that in the next slide. So here we're doing if we just say 10, we're going to get all the random numbers 0 to 9, right? That's going to be 0 to 9. It's not going to include 10. It'll be 10 numbers evenly spaced, but 0 to 9, because we multiplied by 10. But if we wanted to have some other range of numbers, we can set an upper and a lower limit to them. So that's what we're doing here. We're saying, okay, we're going to take an upper number and a lower number. By subtracting them, that gives us how many we're going to have, right? So for example, if you did an upper number of 10 and a lower number of 2, you know that that's going to be 8 numbers. 8 numbers. And then on the end, you add 2 to it. That means that you're going to start, your first number is going to be the 2, right? And then there's going to be 8 numbers evenly spaced between 2 and whatever. So that's how that will work. And here's another one here. So we're going to, this one, we don't want to start counting from 0. So we're adding 1 to that when we do it, right? So 20 minus 5, that's going to give us 15 numbers evenly spaced. But we don't want to start with a number going from 0 to 15. Okay, we go from 1 to 15. We add 5 to it. So that actually adds 1 on the end of there. So I hope that kind of makes some sense. It's kind of a bit tricky. The next sort of thing to look at there is working with dates. Now here, what I hope you notice here, maybe you've seen this in some other object-oriented programming language. When you set something new, you're creating a new object. So here we're creating a new object, which we're going to call it next year, but it's an object of date. We've got a bunch of parameters that we can add to that. If we didn't add any parameter to that, we would just get to now, right? But so here, the first one will be the year, the month, the day, the hour, the minute, the second. So, I hope that it's sort of, from big to small, right? Year, month, day. Now, why 0, right? So with the month, we start counting from the month 0. So January this is actually January the 1st, 3 p.m. because the 15th hour, because there's 24 hours in it. All right, 0 minutes and 59 seconds. So that's how that's working, right? The year 2022, the month January, the day the 1st, the hour the 3 p.m. 15th hour. Okay, so that's how that will work. Now, so we can specify a date which is not now, a time, a date, a time, whatever, which is not now. That's what's happening here. We're using the date to specify a time. That's not now, but it is a time that would exist. Now, we don't have to specify all of them. That's what's happening here, because we're only specifying up to here, in which case the ones that are not mentioned will be treated like zeros, right? So this would be, this one here would be 15 at 3 o'clock exactly. Not, this one has 59 seconds on it, but this one is 59 exactly because we actually left them off. So it took the default there and just said 0 minutes and 0 seconds. So we don't have to put those all in. And again, here, all we're putting, so leave one more off, and all we're putting is the year, the month, and the day. And so everything else will be 0. So we're starting at, midnight, basically. That would be, so if you leave those off, that's what you're going to get. And the difference, so this was a date in 2021 and a date in 2022. That's going to be exactly 365 days, isn't it? So this date here, this year, that's January the 1st, 2021, January the 1st, 2022. Got those two. So now we've got these dates, objects, we can actually do some mathematics with them. So here we're subtracting them, right? So we're taking January 1st, 2022, subtracting January 1st, 2023, and we get how far the year is. Now, as it says, that value will be returned as a value in milliseconds. And so it's a big number, right? So that's how many milliseconds. So if we wanted to sort of know how many days that was, first we'd have to divide it by 1,000 to get the number of seconds. Then we'd have to divide it by 60 to get the number of minutes. Then again by, you get the idea? So that's what's happening here. So we divide by 1,000 to get the number of seconds, minutes, hours. Have I missed 160 out of there somewhere? Oh, this is milliseconds, right? Yeah, so then seconds, hours, minutes, hours. And if you divided it through like that, you get your 365 days, which you could sort of. So there's a few things that you can do with your creating a new date. So the important thing there that we're looking at is this thing called date, right? We can do new date, which is going to create an object of a date and time of our choosing. We've chosen the date and time by inputting the parameters which will work with that date and time. Then we can do we can use it like a number and subtract it or add it or work with it. And knowing that any subtraction that we do, the remaining value will be in milliseconds. So we will have to convert that to get our year, our days and hours or whatever. Okay, so got that, but that's where we were, right? Oh, geez, this thing is so sensitive. We were there. That's 8, 9. Oh, we just did that. 10. Yes. All right. So we have a bunch of other methods that we can use. So once we have created the object for the date, so using that new date, whatever, then we can use one of these methods to return any of these things. We can return the full year, return the month. Okay. So basically, we're parsing out parts of the date using these particular methods. Return the date in the month, return a particular day of the week. So from this number, we can get the day of the week. Notice the day of the week is going to be a number, starting from 0 for Sunday in the week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Those would be one of 7 numbers, right? I get the hours, minutes, and seconds from the number. Once we've created this object, which is a date, a numeric date, we can parse it out using these. No. Sorry. That's where we were, right? So we can actually set the date, or what's happening here is we're actually updating it. You can look at it that way. Set the date using these particular methods. So set the date, basically change it by an update with one of these functions, one of these methods here, which is going to make a change to it with that. So we've got that. All right, so here's an example of how that might look using our JavaScript. So here we're doing a date without any parameters. So we got a new date. We're creating an object date without any parameters. That's going to be the date and time at the moment, which is why we're calling it now here, right? So we're creating that one. We're calling that now. And if we showed that, that would be the date now. Then we're creating another one where we're going to just get from today, we're going to get the year, the month, the date, but we're adding one to it. So the thing here is like, this is tomorrow, right? This is tomorrow. So that's what we're doing here. We've created this object here now using today's date. From now, today's date, the year of now, the month of now, and the date of now plus one. We're going to put those in to create a new object, which we're going to call expiry date, which is tomorrow, because it's one day after today. So that's what's happening there. And this is just another way of doing the same thing and sort of present it out at the end. Sorry? Okay, so just again, what we're doing here is we're creating an object of the type date. All right, so there's two ways of doing that. We can create an object of the type date without any parameters. That is now. This one? Okay, it does the same thing that this does. It just does it in a different sort of syntax. So sorry about that. I didn't sort of go through that more deeply, but it just does it in a if you look, we haven't sort of done the month. We just did a set date sort of thing. We've used a set date from now plus one. So as opposed to saying today's year, today's month, today's day plus one, we're just going to say, okay, well, we're going to use the set date method, and we're just going to add one to today's day. So I hope that works for you. Two different ways of doing the same thing. All right, so we've got, right, the next couple of slides are a little bit, it's on the time, but it's slightly different topic again. So we were looking at date there, all right? So now we've got this thing where we can have some kind of thing happening. We want to have a function that we want to make the function do something, but we want to have some kind of delay working with that function before that function works. So we have some things here that allow us to do that. We have a couple of we can work with. We can use set timeout, and we can clear that timeout as well. So that's going to work, and you'll see that in the example that you've got. In a minute, I'll go through the examples that were given to us. So what's going to happen here is when we say this set timeout, we have created somewhere a function, all right? And that function is going to do something. But what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to give a number here. The delay number is going to be a number in milliseconds. So like if you wanted to delay for 1 second, you would use the number 1000. If you wanted to delay for 5 seconds, you'd use the number 5000. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to do this function, but we're going to wait before we do it. And how long we're going to wait is the number that we've got. And so here's an example of how that could be. We've actually created this function here. We called it delay alert. And there we just got an alert, which is going to say something's happened. Then out here, we're actually going to do the set timeout. And what's going to happen is after 4000 milliseconds, which is 4 seconds, we're going to run this function. Now, that's actually kind of like calling that function. This is the function name here. We're not using the brackets. And you make sure that you don't use the brackets when you do that with your set timeout. But what we're doing is we're going to saying, all right, we're going to do that function after 4000 milliseconds. And of course, you adjust that to how you want to do it. So we've got this function that is sort of built into JavaScript called set timeout. And it takes as parameters another function name and a time. And you'll see that in the example in a minute. Now, set interval, kind of like set timeout. What set timeout does is says, all right, we're going to go and run this function after a certain time, and we're going to run it once. All right. With set interval, it's kind of like that, but we can run it. We're repeating it. Okay. We're going to run it many times with a space between running it of this particular interval. So how this is going to be different than the other one, doesn't it look the same? It kind of does, right? But so we have a same kind of function, delay alert that we've written ourselves. Then we're going to do the set timeout. Oh, sorry, this is, oh, I've gone ahead by a slide. 14. Yeah, sorry. So what we're going to do is we've created a different function here, which is going to print something. But what's going to happen is with the set interval, we're going to call that function. We're going to call that function every 4,000 seconds, 4,000 milliseconds, every 4 seconds. So this is going to keep coming every 4 seconds. So it's kind of like the set timeout, but it's repeated. So that's why we're calling it an interval. Notice that you don't put the this is calling that function, but we don't have the parenthesis on there like you would in a normal function call. Okay, so yeah, that's the last slide. All right, so what if we want to stop showing the timeout? We've had a delayed function. We want to stop that function from running, or if we want to stop something that's intervaling. So yes, what we can do is we can do a clear timeout. All right, clear timeout will stop whatever's being what was delayed and was running at the time. Clear timeout will stop that function from running. Here we've actually got a variable that's sort of based on this, and clear timeout is going to stop that from running. This one here was going to, after 4,000 seconds, it was going to run this thing, and the clear timeout will stop it. There's another one which is like that, which is going to clear your interval. Now, maybe we can look at that. Look at our examples. Oh, that's kind of hard to see, isn't it? Can you see that at all? I can't. All right, so I'm going to see if I can make that bigger. Yes, here we go. We've got tools, I think. Or was it window? No. Maybe I'll just try a Command plus. Yeah, that works. Can you see that? Okay, so here we got, this is a date one. Let's see if I can get that. So this is the date one. Is that all I've got is date? I thought I had one with the, all right, so let's have a look at how this works. This is this one here. So working with dates, I hope you can see that in the corner there. Let's see what's happening with this. So we've got, looking at the HTML, working with dates, got a label, birth date. Okay, we've got an input field there, right, which is of type date. That's why it's like that. And it's going to take an ID of birth date. And then we've got a button, which says find my age. On click, it's going to run a function called find age. Okay, and so now we've got our little script down here. This is how find age works. Okay, so hopefully this is familiar from what we just looked at a minute ago. You can see that we're creating a date object today, and that's with no parameters, so that means it's going to be now. See if I can stretch this out. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. All right, can we see that now? So what are we doing in our function? We've got a date, then we got another date, which is actually, we're using the DOM and our get by ID to relate that back to the date that the person's put in. So we got two dates working. One of them we're just getting off the computer clock, which is the date. The other one we're taking off the HTML code from whatever the user has entered into here. So we got two dates there. All right. So and right then we're using another. There's a part of the DOM of the document here that you can't actually sort of see it at the moment because it's not showing, but we've identified it here by age. That's an empty paragraph at the moment, but we're going to use that later with our, we're going to use that with some inner HTML to write the result of whatever we're doing here. So I hope that sort of makes sense. So we've got our HTML is there. There's two parts of the HTML that we've identified using get element by ID. We've got our input field there, which we've identified as birth date. And we've got our field where we're going to put our output, which is this paragraph, which we've identified as age. So we've got a date, which is in the memory, which has come from the computer clock, right? That's this one here, today. That's just been put into the memory. That has nothing to do with the rest of the HTML, but that's just a date from the computer clock. We've got another date, which we're asking the user to enter. And so user is going to enter that. I'm going to enter that now. So let's just take a day. We'll get a young person. Somebody who's born in July, not 2021, but can we go up to, yeah, it's different with, put the month in their month. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, can't scroll up in the years. All right, so let's just take a month there. The person, let's say they're born on the 14th. All right. So this person was born on the 14th of May, 2019, and their age is 2. All right. Well, how did that come about? Is that correct? Well, yes, it is. But how did that come about? Well, let's just look at the logic of what's happening. So what we're looking at here is if today's month is bigger than the month that the person was born. So today's month is the 11th, and it's bigger than May. The 11th is bigger than 5. So then we do this bit of code. Otherwise, we do this bit of code. All right. So if the month November is bigger than May, so we do this bit of code. And what does this bit of code do? It just takes the year and subtracts one from the other. Right. And that's the reason why we use a month, right, is because if they're born next month in December, they'll be 1 year younger, right? Officially. So, and that's why in this one we got the -1. So if they're born in a month which is bigger than the current month, we'll have to subtract 1 from their age when we do this little calculation. Now they've got 2 different ways of doing a little bit of string concatenation here. Okay, our string concatenation here is just pretty simple, right? We just got something in a double quote, and we sort of add the other stuff to it. You could do that. This other one you might not have seen before. Okay, so this looking kind of weird. So what do we got here? We got a dollar and a curly brace, and then everything is just inside there, and then another curly brace at the end. Now the other thing that's special about this is everything that's going to be concatenated together in this nice little string is in between this left quote. It's not a straight up and down quote, and it's not a double quote. They won't work. So this is kind of weird. You just have to, if you're going to use this kind of syntax, you're going to need to use that left quote. Now, where do you find that? On most keyboards, you find it beside the number 1. I mean, it might be different on Mac, of course, because Mac has everything different. But on your Microsoft Windows keyboard, you're going to find that that left slash thing, left quote, left back. Where is it on this one? Beside Z. Okay, yeah, there it is, beside Z. On this keyboard, it's beside Z. If you're using your Windows keyboard, it's going to be beside the number 1 at the top. And so just sort of watch out for that. Right, so I think, yeah, right. There should have been some more, another example. Oh, the timed events, did we do that? Timed events? They just did working with dates. What do you want to do? I could probably make it for you. But the problem is I kind of told Susanna, yeah, she's the only one. How many of you want to have the quiz today? How many don't want to have it today? All right. You're kind of outnumbered. Yeah, okay, so that's right. I'll let the, all right, those, so there you go. All right. Okay, so this, let's stop this then and give me 5 minutes break and I'll give you your quiz. Is that fair? Is that fair? Yeah. All right, so, sorry? Yeah. Give me full marks, please, sir. Yes, okay. I'll get full marks? Yeah, something like that. So yeah, let's stop the recording. All right, so give me